And hello, good people of the internet. This is Tommy Kelly, and this is, of course, the Tommy Kelly podcast. And this week we are coming from the old haunt, the old recording studio, which is Tommy's office. So, the audio should sound better than it has. Although, saying that, I think recording on the phone with the microphone I have, the external microphone that I've been doing on location, isn't too bad. Once I do a bit of post processing and stuff like that. So I would say that the audio will probably be much better this week, but it might be just okay. It could be me being perfectionist and stuff like that. I think the important thing is just that people can understand me, and so the microphone may not be as important as slowing down, because my accents can be hard for some people. But anyway, we move on. This week we have one of those question and answer type things. I got questions from the patrons over on Patreon and from the 47th Facebook group. And there's some great ones, quite long ones, some of them, so I will have to read these out to you. And so we'll go with that. So let's get into this straight away. First off, just a quick apology in that I am going to pronounce everyone's names wrong of these questions. That is just my mutant ability. It's one of those gifts that I've got from God when I was born, in that I just cannot pronounce people's names. It coincides, or it's related to, I can't hear people's accents either, in that I find it very hard to differentiate between some accents, and most accents, if I'm quite honest about it, that I don't know, particularly if I meet people in real life. Like, I was listening to Mysterious Universe for years before I realised they were Australian, so that'll tell you exactly my background in this. So anyway, the second apology is that I'm drinking Coke Zero, so there might be some riffs or burps during it, and as I don't edit these things, that's just the way it is. I'm mostly a decaffeinated boy these days, but I really like Coke Zero, so every now and again I treat myself to it. But I can instantly feel the caffeine affect me. And the good thing about not drinking much caffeine, or drinking very little, or denormalizing caffeine, is that when you actually need the boost and you have a coffee or you have something, it works, rather than just generally topping yourself. I was going to say topping yourself off. Don't top yourself off with caffeine. Just topping yourself up and being on a constant state of perpetual anxiety and background stress, which is what caffeine does to me if I have it on. Let's just go as a normal. Anyway, blabbing and meandering Tommy will shut up now and get into these. Okay, so in no particular order, other than this one from Jonathan McLean Lambie, because he sent it in to me in last month's for Q&A time, and I didn't get to it because we had that whole baby thing, and just ran out of time. I'm just looking for a pen. Yes. Okay, so looking at the concepts of extremes, say Zarathustra, allegedly the first wizard. Zarathustra? Allegedly the first wizard. He created Ahura Mazda. I can't even pronounce even god names at the minute, to represent absolute good, in effect then also creating its polar opposite. His philosophy of religion then became the basis for Mithras and Christianity, etc. What are your thoughts and experiences of absolute concepts? Do you think there'd be more division and polarity as opposed to the nice idea that... Do you think they may affect more division and polarity as opposed to the nice idea that they had whilst chatting to Jinn in the desert? Hold on, I'm reading this wrong, am I? Do you think they may affect more division and polarity as opposed to the nice idea they had whilst chatting to Jinn in the desert? Oh, right, yeah. Do you see any such absolutes reflected in nature? Well, do you see, here's the thing, and as I'm sure you know, absolutes, I suppose, are our whole experience of nature is subjective, and even it's in a kind of collective subjectivity as well, in that when we band together to have kind of a look at nature, that it's still from an objective point, even though we try to be objective. And the other thing is that for humans, for some reason, we decide, or we speak or we talk as if we are outside nature, and look at what we're doing to nature, when it comes to like the ecological thing of our planet and stuff like that. Look what we're doing to nature, forgetting that we are from nature, that we've come from nature, and we are as much part of nature. So it's like nature doing something to the planet. It's not as if we're outside of it, which is not the question I asked, but just while I was there. So is there absolutes in Nature. Well, I suppose you could have the cop-out answer of go, what is natural reality? Is there a natural reality? Is any of it real and all that? Or then you can get into the whole thing of, is there an absolute, is there evil? Is there good? Or is all that subjective? And that's the thing I was talking about last week as well, that people kind of, or at least appear to mix up in some ways, or get confused in the whole left hand, right hand part, which, take that as you want, or leave it as you want. In that, when they do the swapping of the clothes between when they switch from the right hand path to the left hand path, and Lucifer or Jesus becomes Lucifer and all these things, is that they leave out this whole kind of thing of evil and stuff like that. And does evil exist as a thing in the universe? It's certainly. I think when people start talking about this, when I've come across other people talking about it, it kind of goes weird, kind of quick for me, and I kind of be put off because it sounds very judgmental, or unless you're coming from some moralistic Christian background or some moralizing, oh, that these things are evil or whatever. But the evil certainly exists, and does it exist objectively? I don't know the answer to that. From my subjective point of view, I would say that evil does exist, because you hear some horror stories of people doing horrible things, and nature's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty. It's pretty brutal. It doesn't care, and it does some really horrible things, like some of those things you hear about, those insects, whatever, that how to kill the prey by burrowing into their brains, and it's extremely painful, and all of these different things. But is that evil? Is it only evil if you're coming from if you're that the bug getting your brain burrowed into by another bug? So I don't know is the answer. Subjectively, I do think there is absolutes, but objectively, how can I tell? That didn't answer your question. I wouldn't say it to any sort of satisfaction, Jonathan, but that's the best I have for you. So Wendy says, I really like the business model you've created for yourself. You manage to incorporate many creative projects, share your work in a community of like-minded people, etc. It's something I'd like to do for my own business. So I guess my question is, did you make a plan, or did you just start with your art and just add new things like your website, podcast, etc. as the ideas unfolded? I get bored easily, so the idea of a multifaceted business model based around a theme really appeals to me. But I want it to feel genuine the way yours does, not forced like market funnels or similar crap. Hope that makes sense, as it's 6 a.m. and I'm not quite awake. Well, no plan whatsoever. I say no plan, but I mean, I did a podcast, so I had to plan to do a podcast and set that up. So I mean, there's planning and that kind of stuff, but not in the sense of I had to put together a business plan or anything like that. Mostly all of that comes from when I set up Adventures in Woo. I set it up I set it up under a different name because I didn't want people to know my name, and because I wanted to have the freedom of being able to talk about all these things without the burden or without the challenge of having to explain myself to real people, and that's in my real life. And I've spoke before that I was surrounded by an awful lot of atheism and militant atheism and aggressive atheism, and with a few bits and pieces of like some sort of new agey or Christian thing. So I didn't feel comfortable being open about it because I just didn't want to have that conversation, and I didn't want to be known as that kind of person. Now I don't care so much. Still parts of me that I just don't want to get into the debate with people. And recently someone from a completely different walk of life and a non-occult thing was asked me, oh, I see you talking about magic. What is it? And I don't really know how to answer that question to someone who doesn't know anything about it, because you just sound insane. So I didn't really want to sound insane to people I'd worked with or people I'd gone to school with or any of these things. So that was the original plan, was to do it anonymously. Well done, Tommy Smet, and get it out there. But that didn't last very long, because when I did it on Facebook at the time, which I've since found out they don't do anymore, you weren't allowed to use a pseudonym or nom de plume. And so within about 2 weeks of having my Facebook account with this Fratter Blue, terrible name as it is, I had to change my name back. So I just kind of became a bit more open, but I didn't kind of publicize it. I kept it separate for a long while, where I had my occult stuff on Facebook, and only people who were to do with occult would get on my Facebook. And then I had like excuse me, there's the first rift. And then on the Facebook page, the photography and art page, I kept people who I had kind of, gathered over the years from art and from work and from school and that kind of thing. And I kind of amalgamated over the last while. And I just kind of, not that I let anyone be my friend on Facebook. You still have to be friend of a friend, so there has to be some connection some way. But I don't have like all the people from school. I don't have all those kind of things. So going into the website, it was just, I suppose it became something very different very quick. So I did have a plan of doing it, so that it wouldn't be Tommy Kelly, and then therefore I wasn't going to be doing any of the art or whatever. But that quickly turned, as I say, from the Facebook thing into, because I had to change, or say who I was, and so I just did the whole. Originally, originally the blog was on Tumblr, and it wasn't Adventures in Movies. So when I got to actually Adventures in Movies was after I had become a bit more open about the whole thing. And the plan for it was just to talk about occult and magic and stuff like that from possibly a more skeptical point of view than I do now, because I was quite skeptical about the whole thing. And although I had a huge interest in it, it wasn't really working for me. And I was kind of felt that maybe I was just fooling myself and stuff like that. So it was in the spirit of inquiry, rather than, I suppose, what it is now, which is kind of, as much as I would still say I'm quite skeptical, I still come to the point of view that magic probably does exist, rather than thinking that, oh, let's have a look and see if magic exists. But adding all the other stuff, the big thing I would suggest to anyone, and I learned this from comics, from doing web comics, is join communities, but not with but don't just use these communities to publicize yourself, because I think it's the hugest mistake people make. Like, they will say you're doing a webcomic. So you join a webcomic Facebook group, and the first thing you do is, post a link to your webcomic on it and piss everyone else off, because that's the first thing you've done in the group or whatever. So whatever your business is, find the groups, find the the Reddit page, find the page, all that, and find a community and talk to people about it. Don't try to sell anything or say who you are, or go in and just post your blogs or whatever. Interact with people and all that, which is what I did for ages in CMG, the Chaos Magic group on Facebook, and in or Occult. I was just hung around there for ages and was posting stuff and talking to people, and generally becoming part of, being an active member of the community before I ever said, oh, here's a deck, do you want to buy it? Here's the 47s. And so by the time the 47s did come out, the moderators over at Occult knew me well enough and knew I was, into the whole thing. It wasn't being a chance that they put up a sticky post for 2 weeks about it on the front of Occult, which is, that's a huge amount of views that I got out of that from just that thing. Had I just gone in and posted about it, had not been part of that community, and just, joined these communities just for the sake of publicity, whatever, you would get voted down. People would associate your name. Oh, there's that guy who just comes in. Because you see it in CMG a lot, where a guy will come in and just all he does is post about, whatever he has for sale or whatever. I was going to name some names there, but I won't. But some of the bigger guys have done it too. Like, it's not just people you don't know about as well. And so then the eclecticism of the whole thing, I just decided I'm going to go with it. I want a hub of all things that is is mine, and that I can just put wherever I want. So it wasn't Chaos Magic and art for a while. It was just Chaos Magic and then the art thing, because when I became more open about doing the art, and when I started doing the 47s and I was putting up the art, there was more of that whole section of art or whatever. So Chaos Magic and art. What is my plan? My plan, if I have anything, is to be as authentic as possible and to be as honest as possible, and to do all of it for me, rather than to try and appease or please other people. So that the reason why my photography is there is because I'm interested in photography, rather than thinking, oh, this is a good selling point, or this is something that I think people will be, that will get me my name out there, or any that kind of stuff. It's there, and probably most people who go to Adventures in Movie don't like the photography element of it. Not that, but that don't care in a good way, like in a fine way. Like, they don't care. It's not that it annoys them. Maybe it does annoy them, but it's still still does okay stats wise and stuff. So yeah, just I wanted. So my plan, there you go. The actual answer to your question is: be authentic. Do the thing you want, and if you get bored easily, set yourself up in such a way that you can switch gears, do different things as it goes, and keep it interesting for you, rather, because if you're going to do something like this, if you're going to set up and going to be self-employed and all of these things, do it on your own terms, because otherwise, just keep your 9-to-5 job working for someone else, so that's it. I hope in some way that makes some help you. Not sure it does. Hugh Hackett. The placebo effect and magic. I started magicking last year and things seemed to work amazingly well. Then after some time, things kind of fizzled this spring/summer. I also have not been meditating as much as I previously had, which may have something to do with it. Then I started learning astrology just to understand how it worked via YouTube astrologers who do specific sign show and tells with charts and explains the whys and wherefores. That was great for understanding how it works, but I also got a lot about me. It might have Tommy, can you not read? But I also got a lot about me. It might have been too much, as it turned out that this summer it was a very bad time for my sign chart. All right, so you learned about yourself, and yeah. And lo and behold, it really felt like a very bad time. Now that has cut off there, so I'm just going to check. But there was nothing else. Or else I'll just talk about placebos and magic in general from that. This is the glory of not editing your podcast. You have some dead air that you must talk over. And no, that's the end of it. That was 10 things. So the placebo and magic. Right. Hugh, so the placebo and magic, how much of it is basically in your, how much are you doing it by convincing yourself is, and how much is actually, like doing, much of lighting a candle with an intention is changing your mind, and how much is changing the world. For me, I don't really see the two things as being, I think they're intrinsically linked. I think the real world and my brain is the same thing, or my consciousness. As I was speaking last week about, or a couple of weeks ago, about how I see, what is a magical universe, and that we are a focal point within a field of consciousness. So it's all placebo in the sense of it's my mind doing it, but it's your mind doing it. It's the mind doing it, or whatever. But there are other, the psychological things of that if you start concentrating on something, you become more aware of them. In that if you, want a particular car, say, which this is example, it's mostly given, you will start seeing a lot of that car. And things like, as well, that when you start worrying about something, you will start, like, say you, I don't know, have a weird spot on your arm and you start thinking about, cancer or skin diseases or all these things, you'll start seeing an awful lot of that reflected in the world because you're aware of it and you're becoming more, you're focused on it or whatever. So you'll notice ads on TV about it, ads in the newspaper about it, or people talking about it. And it's just because you put an emphasis on it or focal point on it, rather than you're creating these events, I think. But there could be a bit of both. You could also be, in the law of attraction, kind of attracting these type of things because you're thinking about them and stuff like that. So, for me, is magic just a placebo effect for more than just non-physical things? That's it probably is, but that in a non-diminishing way of that, in that it's probably, I think it's all mind, it's all consciousness, it's all. So your beliefs do matter, but so do other people's beliefs, and it's idealism, I think, rather than solipsism. So it's not. It's why can say people, oh, say you have the law of attraction, go, well, but I really thought I would have this or that, because you're dealing in fields and you're dealing with other people, you're dealing with your own shadow, you're dealing with all of these things. So there's a lot to be going on. The nocebo effect definitely has an effect in people, and you see that it's often given as an example of voodoo dolls as a nocebo effect. But some people have also put forward that the voodoo doll thing, which is, it's not exactly traditional, and when we think of voodoo dolls, it's more a Hollywood type thing than what they actually are. But it seems to work in occasions where people don't know about it as well. So I don't know how would you test for something that is magic just a placebo, because the test would have to be that you would have to affect something without you knowing about it. But if all is mind and all is connected and all is consciousness, that on some level you will always be connected and always know. So there's an experiment to be had there that I can't think of because of my paradigm. But if you're outside the paradigm, from a materialist point of view, I would definitely say that all magic is a placebo effect. But I don't have a materialist point of view. So yeah, I don't think I'm doing too well at these questions. I don't seem to be getting to the heart of them all. Everin Scargle. Any good uncrossing, feeling cursed, having a pissed off spirit, and needing to go out, needing to get out advice. Yeah, one, don't take it that seriously, and two, take it quite seriously. And by that I mean is that 99% of the times you think you're cursed or crossed or generally attacked by other things or looked badly upon is not true. But the 1% that it is, you should do something about it. I went through a whole period of thinking I was cursed, but not by like a person in general, just like as if had some bad juju going round on me. And if you look in the blog, there's whole different things where I was doing uncrossing rituals and stuff like that. And the egg one's quite interesting, where you just rub the egg all over you and it takes the negative energy out of you and you throw the egg away or whatever. When I went to do that, the eggs fell and I made a mess. I was like, things were really getting weird at that point though. Like lots of stuff, that whole thing that I've talked about before happened around me, where things break or stop working and all that. And that was just like the crux of it, or the end result of that. When I went to do the uncrossing ritual, all the eggs fell on the ground too. But so yeah, I do have stuff on the blog about uncrossing. Jason Miller again is the go-to guy for uncrossing and curses and protection, like his book Protection and Reversal Magic, the Unfortunate Psychic Protection book, whatever one that's called. David Bowie's favorite book of all time, allegedly. Check that out. It's good. It's very old-fashioned and very kind of quaint, we shall say. But yeah, check that out. But yeah, then my advice is, mostly don't take it seriously, but if you're, take it seriously. Banishing's great, smudging, all of that stuff, any of that, cleaning your room, that kind of stuff is really helpful. Jacqueline Bradley, was it you that talked about the Bengston method? You should expand on that. It may be very useful for some people. There are a few rapid cycling methods, flashcards, etc., but Bengston is easy. The Bengston method, basically, I came across this from Gordon White, as I came across loads of stuff. I first heard of this from Gordon White, and it's basically a guy who was doing is he a scientist? He's some sort of qualifications. Anyway, I don't know what it is. I can't remember. It's a while since. No, it is. Yeah, so he's doctor, whatever, Bengston, and he met a guy who was healing. He could do all these great healing stuff. And he was really, really good, and he had this kind of system or whatever. And then they got funding, whatever, to actually do it in a college as a proper study, whatever. And your man disappeared or didn't want out of it, or there was some sort of falling out, whatever. So this guy, Dr. Bengston, is that his name? His book's called The Energy Cure. Is it Bengston or Bengston or something? Anyway, you can look it up. But he decided he would go ahead with the study, only he would do it himself. And what he found is that he worked and he could cure these mice of cancer. And if his papers and his stuff is to be believed, then he has the cure for cancer, because like he absolutely cured. He's the cure for cancer in mice. Anyway, cured these mice and has photo evidence and seems to be backed up or whatever. But you would kind of assume that if someone had done this, that there would be more noise made about it and stuff. But I don't know. But the idea, anyway, seems to be that it's part intentional, but with getting yourself out of the way of it or whatever. So he has this thing called a cycling method, whereas you have 10 things in your head, 10 or 20, and there are 10 or 20 things you want in your life that you decide on 20 things that you want to happen in your life, and kind of do it from, I don't know if this is him or this is Gordon, but do it from easy to hard or short to long term, in that the bigger things you want more at the end, and then kind of have one still image that represents that, and then you go through them in your head, and it's called cycling. So, and you try and get it as fast as possible until it's speeding up the whole thing. And this is what you have going on in your head while you're doing the energy healing. So, say you're curing a mouse of cancer, and you put your hands on his cage, and then you distract yourself by doing this cycling method in your head. Now, the reason why I say it's somewhat intentional as well is because it seemed that when they separated mice, whatever, that unless they stipulated that this something along these lines, stipulated exactly that it was this mouse in particular that it was curing, or sending cured, it cured all the mice. It's the mice that they were doing the energy healing on, and the mice that had hidden the other side, who were just destined to die without any thing on it. If they didn't specify exactly who they were sending the energy to, they all got better. So there is some sort of intentional thing as well. The side effect, of course, then of doing this is that you tend to manifest the cycling stuff that your goals that you've done in the cycling. Gordon White put this forward as a gnosis method for sigil manifestation in a sigil course. While you're looking at the sigil, you do the cycling, that kind of thing, rather than wanking off or whatever way you do your sigils. I've had some success with cycling, but no more than sigils, no more than any. My hit rate is about 60% on all of these things, whether it be sigils, petitions, manifesting, law of attraction, all of this. Law of attraction maybe a bit higher, and it's 60%, and it'll be higher if I don't care about it. Like if I'm trying to, just for the sake of filling out a shoal or sigil shoal or something like that, and way less if I care about it. If I really want something, it's a lot harder for me to get it by magic means, which to me sounds fairly intentional, and it's all to do with consciousness. But there's also then, the more you want something, the more you are engaging in your shadow stuff as well, I feel, anyway. Your worthiness and all your crud comes up because you're passionate about it, you're closer to it, and all those kind of things, and it starts engaging, and all your shadow stuff comes online. So that could be an element of it too. So yeah, I would check it out. There is an audiobook of it as well, The Energy Cure, and he has a course and all that kind of stuff, and you can become like a trained or qualified Bengston method energy healer and stuff like that. It's not as woo-woo as it might sound. It's totally woo-woo, but it's the presentation of it isn't like, it's not in a Reiki way, or any of that kind of woolly type sense. So check it out, it's very interesting, particularly the cycling method. Okay, Derek Cook, synchronicity, pop culture. Personally have been having a lot of these showing up in the former. Either I'm not good at reading today, or people aren't writing it. Probably just a mixture of both. So synchronicities and pop culture magic. Yeah, that's something that I find it's something that happens to me a tremendous amount when I'm engaging in magic, when I'm doing stuff, is that I would start getting synchronicities in pop culture, particularly in TV shows and books. But that could be because my pop culture interaction is TV shows and books. That's kind of it, and films. But I will get an awful lot of synchronicities, and things will happen that things will be mentioned in two different, say, TV programs that are not connected, and like one might be from a couple of years ago that I just happened to be catching up, like say watching season 2 of something, and one might be a modern program that I just watched back to back, and they both have talked about the same obscure topic that is somehow related to whatever I'm working on at the time. The big thing that happens to me, and I know that I'm in a kind of a magical mode or setting, whatever, is that things I read, say you're scrolling Facebook and you're also listening to an audiobook or a radio show, or the TV's on the background, and I will start reading stuff at the time, the exact word as someone says it on the TV show or the radio or whatever it is. And there was a day recently where that was just constantly happening all day. It was really weird. It got really funny in the end anyway. But with them, it was just kind of, oh, that's weird and interesting, but there seemed no pointers. There was no conclusion. I didn't get some big insight out of it or anything, other than maybe you kind of say, oh, you're on the right path, but path of what? Nothing manifests out of it. There was no conclusion to it. It was just really interesting. So yeah, I did find an awful lot of stuff in echoing, as I've talked about before, magical echoes, echoing in stuff. Synchronicities, and the only way I can describe synchronicities to people who don't think that, it's coincidence. Synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence. It's not your coincidence per se. It's a coincidence that has personal meaning for you, and it feels different. It absolutely feels different than just a coincidence where you just go, oh, I was just thinking about you, rather than I was just thinking about you. That's mental. There's a difference in it. And people say those type of things. It's what happens all the time. You think about Stephen all the time, and the one time that he rang is that you've made the point of you're remembering and think it's really weird. Rupert Sheldrake's answer to that is, show me the studies of that. Where have you studied that? Where's the proof that you do think about people all the time, and only then make an association with it as a coincidence or synchronicity the one time you remember. It's like that might be sounds plausible enough, but show me the evidence. Also, I know the difference between a coincidence and synchronicity. It feels different. It's massively different. And it's not just me fooling myself. Apart from the whole thing of that, the entirety of this is me fooling myself in the Alan Mott's way of it's God playing a game of hide and seek with himself. So going back to Hugh Hackett's placebo, it's all placebo, and none of it's placebo. Shifley. I'd be interested to know if you can carve one of the sigils for permanent enchantment of an object. So to take one of the 47 sigils and make it as a talisman, why not? Go for it. Try it. People ask me about this with tattoos. You know, people have tattooed the 47 sigils on themselves. It's just like, be really, certainly with something that's that permanent, be sure you want that energy around in your body or in your life for the rest of your life, because that's not going away. So if you're making a talisman, it's much easier. Make it in such a way that, you know, you can destroy it or get rid of it or move it along or have some way, some sort of get at a thing. But yeah, sure, yeah. Putting, right, you know, like the fortunate sigil in your wallet, or yeah, any of those type of things, or the healing thing. The healing thing, that's very rude. The healing sigil, you could put it on, I don't know, medicine bottles or any of these type of things, or have it around your neck as general healing. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would go through that. Are the servitors evolving into egregores? Oh yes, this is one for the FAQ that I have to do at some stage. Are they evolving into egregores? Depends on what you mean by egregore, and strictly speaking, no, absolutely not, because the servitors can't evolve. They can't change their nature. They are what they are. That's how they're designed. That's how they have been instructed. That's the will they follow, and that's the healer will always be the healer. It won't be anything more. Egregores, besides, are servitors that have been made by a group of people, which the 47s have not. But the point I think that you're actually asking, are they becoming their own god forms and stuff like that, with their own autonomy, independence, sovereignty, and that. Again, my answer to that would be no, because they can't change their nature from what they are. With the caveat that maybe, you know, like who knows, like because they're ideas. At the end of the day, that's what they are. They're ideas, and there's nothing more powerful in the world than an idea. So how do you limit ideas or put a limit on an idea? The reason why I'm always very hesitant about this is because people start going crazy and thinking things are getting out of control, because as soon as you allow any sort of belief that the servitors can have a life or sovereignty or autonomy or an independence of their own, and to start thinking that, you know, oh, they're going to go bad, and they start bringing bad luck to you and wrecking your house and all this crazy stuff that are talked about servitors and all that. So that's why I'm always hesitant to say they're evolving, because people go straight to that. It's, you know, it's that whole, it comes from the tulpa thing, that if you keep a tulpa around too long, it goes bad, you know, because it doesn't want to be there. There's plenty of servitors, like Spider-Man's never gone bad. Batman's never gone bad in the sense of, well, there's plenty of storylines where they have, like, a, you know, like, or Superman, and was Superman 3 where he goes bad. But as an idea, it's never come and taken over the world. And like you're talking about the same things, the same things. We're talking about ideas. So are they evolving into egregores? Strictly speaking, no, the nature can't change. And two, egregore is a spirit or an entity that is created by a group that has independence, sovereignty, autonomy, all those words. Do each of them have their own astral world or space? Again, are they independent from humans? They're not independent from consciousness. Do they have their own astral world? Well, do in my head, because I've talked before about the astral train of where they are, and sort of all of different rooms or different sections and all that. But is that an actual place where they reside? Probably not. You know, no. Like, but it's all of mind stuff is the astral. Like the astral world or astral plane is the imaginal, or is that thing when you close your eyes and you think of a steamboat going under a bridge. Wherever that image is that you've just had in your head now, that's the astral plane as I see it. So they have their own astral. Yeah, sure, in the sense of, yeah, well, there are things that exist in now a lot of people's heads. That's, yeah, but it's like, but Yeah, go on. Do people practice entering the card space of servers in the same way as tarot meditations? Well, we'd have to ask people, but I have done, and one of like the whole BOTA, I was going to say BOTA, which is totally wrong. You're shunned out of the group if you say that. The BOTA have a lot of meditations and introspection on the major arcana of the tarot, which was a huge influence on how I approached the 40 servants because I was in BOTA for a while. So many questions. Yes, I have so many questions too. I think that is all. No, I have one more. And this is going back. Right. So this is from someone. I'm not going to mention name because it's pretty personal. But we'll go into it. I'm not looking for a therapy session. I'm a year into Magick. I'm entirely convinced of its relevance, but what I describe as new and thought airing it with others might be good. My mother died August 1st under horrible family circumstances that really bothered me. I'm only a year into it, but all magical or meditation practice seems stupid and pointless and give me no comfort. I've done some magical things in the last week, but feel like there's a wall there. The only meditation I've been successful at is breathing in 6 seconds and breathing out 6 seconds. Otherwise, Our Fathers and Hail Marys were as close as I could get into any feeling of something 20 years more. Which was never a problem in the past. That's all. I'm slowly getting back to normal. Just thought you might be interested in commenting in the future. So this whole thing of the wall, I absolutely get that. And what has happened and what I would say has happened, I can't speak, I don't know, is that you become disenchanted. And when you become disenchanted, this is exactly what happens. Your world changes. Your outlook changes. And I talked for in the podcast about how does magical universe work. How you view the world or whatever seems to be reflected in the world. I know I said earlier on that's not necessarily so, but if we go total woo, and it's more than just thinking of red cars and then you see red cars or whatever it is. If you hang around with Richard Dawkins, by hang around I mean you read an awful lot of his books and you're watching his videos and you're at the table is Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett and whoever amount of people. The world, when I do that anyway, the world becomes very materialistic. The rules of the world seem to become very materialistic. They work on that kind of model, and that's kind of what you have to adhere to. So to work in that world or to become successful or to that, that's the rules you're now following because that's what you've aligned yourself with. That's the kind of thought, that's the energy that you're now involved in, or that's the part of the quantum multiple universe bubble that that you have joined, and now that's how the rules of the world work. When you are very magical and you're thinking an awful lot about magic and you're hanging out with magical people, thinking in lots of magical thoughts, or listening to an awful lot of Alan Watts or Robert Anton Wilson or whoever it is that gets you into that magical point. Say you're doing a Gordon White's course, you're doing Jason Miller's course, or you're doing Alan Chapman's Wiser by Design, or you're reading Advanced Magic for Beginners, and you're really getting into the magic thing, and things are working, and then you're doing some invocations or some candle work, or you're working with the 40 servants, and all feels very real. You've now moved into an enchanted version of the universe, or an enchanted version of your life, and the rules have changed. You now live in a magical universe, and that's now the game you play, where magic seems to work. Now, the materialist mindset that you were, or energy, or whatever it was that you were about when you were hanging out with Richard Dawkins, and the rules you had to follow, don't work in a magical universe, and magic doesn't work in a Richard Dawkins universe. So in a sense, you have to realign yourself to the magical thing. And this sounds to me like what has happened is that you've become disenchanted and in some way got into a different mode of thinking or different area of the universe, and it's reflecting back into you. So my suggestion would be that it would be to hang out in more magic places until you re-enchant the world yet again, and do that by choice. Don't just wait for that to happen. It's like I, by choice, live in a magical universe because that's what I want to live in, and I like the rules, and I like how it works, and I like how it feels. I like the aesthetics of it. I like how it makes me appear. I like how it makes the world appear. And it's that thing that I often hark on about is Anton LaVey's always acknowledge the magic when it happens. And he might have had a different reason, but what I get from that is that, or what I use from that, is that the more you acknowledge magic, the more you live in a magical universe. The more you surround yourself by magic. And when you say, do something, say you do a sigil to get €50, $50, whatever your local currency is, and you get that, but someone just gives you, or oh, there's that 50 bucks I owe you, whatever, and you go, oh, well, that wasn't really magic, whatever. Always catch yourself and I go, no, that was magic, that's it, because then it's easier to believe that the next thing you do is magic, and then the rules of the universe change until you're in a magical universe. And what if it's all bullshit and you're just fooling yourself? What if it is just placebo? What if it is just you making an absolute fool of yourself? What does it matter if it works? And that's the key to it, in my opinion, anyway. It doesn't matter if you're fooling yourself. We're all fooling ourselves. And so none of us know what's going on. But find a system that works. Hang out in the area of the universe and whatever multiple, dimension there is that is the most magic for a version of you, and move towards that. If that's what you desire, if that works for you, it makes you feel better. And enchant the world. Become more enchanted by it. And when things get hard and when things get down and all that, realize that you've become disenchanted. You've lost the magic, and then make the choice to re-magic yourself. If that is the case, that you have to do some Hail Marys and some Our Fathers, because that's where you first learned magic, and let's not mistake that Christianity is not magic. It is, of course. Then start there, and start with breathing in and breathing out for 6 seconds, but do it every day, and do it with the intention of becoming re-enchanted. So that's what I say. And I know it's tough. I'm sorry to hear about your mom, and sorry to hear about your family circumstances and all that kind of things. It's tough, man. Life's tough, and there's no bones about it. And sometimes, this is the thing about absolutes and all that. We talked about earlier. Sometimes it feels like the world's out to get you. I was listening to Robert Adam Wilson, and he talks about this whole thing that, if you spend long enough, you think that the universe is designed deliberately, to destroy you. And sometimes you really, really can feel that, but it's not to destroy you, it's to destroy all of us. We live in a universe that's eventually going to die, and everything's going to entropy, and that not in that's quite depressing, I suppose, but you can't have something new without, something ending and all of those things, and rot sets in without death. So imagine if people didn't die, and think the people who would be in power, or the people that would be in power for thousands and thousands of years. So at least when people die, it gives a chance for new things to take over. Which that's not particularly nice, and when it's good people who die, but it's part of the game, I suppose. And I don't know why people die, other than I can see from an evolutionary nature point of view and from a power structure point of view why it seems to work or whatever. And that's but there's the absolute of it. I suppose the absolute is the only absolutes you have in life. Come back to the very first question, or no, not the very first, but Jonathan's question about absolutes is that at one point you're alive and at one point you're not. And that's probably the only absolute we have. And that's it. That's a bit of a downer at the end, I suppose, but such is life. There's always a bit of a downer at the end. So yeah. And that was another episode of the Tommy Kelly Podcast. So if you enjoyed that and you want to hear more, then just go to TommyKellyPodcast.com, and that's TOMMIE. Tommy with an IE. Kelly with a Y, podcast with a podcast. And that'll bring you to all the episodes. We're coming up to nearly 70 episodes at this point, all on different topics, mostly related to chaos magic, the occult, personal development, or general art, maybe, or just whatever I'm thinking about at the time. These ones are a bit different in the question and answer stuff. That's part of, mostly comes from the Patreon, which is one of the rewards that you get to ask me questions. But if there's months where there isn't enough questions from the Patreon, Then I open it up to the Facebook group is what I did today. If you want to help me out and have a look at the Patreon, you can go to tommykelly.com, Tommie. That's Tommy with an IE, might have mentioned that before, Kelly with a Y. And that'll bring you straight to the Patreon page, or you can just search for me on Patreon. And there's loads of stuff over there that we're doing group rituals. We are just right now we're in the middle of doing the novena for the saint. There's the journey, which is a year-long shadow working meditation thing using servitors. There's all the PDFs from all my comics. There's the PDF of the Grimoire of the 40 Servants. There's the digital deck. These are all rewards that you get if you sign up for it, depending on your tier. Loads of stuff. If you go to tommykelly.com and look on the right hand side, you will see the different reward tiers and stuff like that. Otherwise, if you just want to check out more of what I do, go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, and that has the hub of everything. You get the videos there, for all the information, the 40 Servants is there, the Magic Primers there, all the blog posts. We started doing other voices on the blog, which is other people that I think are cool writing some stuff for me, which is very nice of them. And we have a couple of them up now, which are really, really good. So, good people of the internet, I will not hold you back any longer. I will not keep you. I'm sure you're very busy people and have better things to be doing than listening to an Irish guy blabble on about the different places on the internet you can find them. I'm easy enough to find anyway. So, may your week be bountiful. May it be pleasant. May you have wonderful experiences. May you learn something about yourself that will propel you into the future in a much better shape than you would have been had you not known that about yourself. May you be protected, may you be safe, and may you be loved. So good people of the internet, be well, and I will see you next week.